So like if hi there, this video is about free will. So free will is being in control of your behavior or of your actions. So like a free-flowing wheel, it takes its own directions, or does it? So the podcast that Talk was hosting Robert Sapolsky, who wrote a paper on free will. So this is the environment here, and whatever happens on the environment affects your brain, which in turn affects you. So in essence, we are biological machines. Our brains have different parts on and off at different times. Because we have a lot of dependencies, for example, the food we eat, the quality of the food we eat, and it turns out you should avoid, if you want a better judgment, you should avoid judges when they are hungry. So there was a study done on judges. So they looked at 4 hours before they ate and 4 hours after they ate before the sentencing. So it turns out judges were more lenient when they were full, which is when they ate 4 hours before the persecution, and they were more lenient at that time. And when they were hungry, they tend to be harsh. So it then became a thing that you should avoid judges when they are hungry. I don't know how to see that, but so here is part 2 on free will. So you can't necessarily go to tell someone and say you don't have free will. You need to provide examples, and it's not a concept that one can easily digest. So let's just take everyday regular events. So say you're in a restaurant and you're supposed to choose between 4 flavors there, A, B, C, and D. So what affects your decision? So before you make that decision, it went back, right? So from, not even from, but before that time, but you can start from when you were in your mother's womb, right? So the environment she was in, her socioeconomic status, her finances affects the flavor that you will choose there. You can think about it this way, right? So when you're in the restaurant, the question is not how you choose the different flavors, but it's why. It's the history that you have, the relationship that you have with the environment. That's how you choose the flavor that you will choose, because of the cause and effect. So cause and effect is saying that a cause will have an effect. So whatever that happens is because of something that happened prior to it. Okay, so I'm aware that I'm speaking vaguely right now. So a simple proof or a disproof would be nice to see. So what you see here is the diagram of a neuron. So these are neurons, structure of neurons, they are connected. So this here is the input neuron and this is the output neuron. Input neuron, you can take it as information that you get. So from your ears, from your eyes, you receive information that goes to your brain, and then you do some processing here. That's your brain thinking. And then you do an output and action. If it's cold, you decide to take off the jacket, stuff like that, right? So your brain is neurons. Your brain is made up of neurons. You get it information, and that's how you make decisions. So that's why if I'm on I'm at the restaurant and I suddenly see someone else that intimidates me, like my crush or something, I'll then choose a different flavor in order to impress them. So you can make decisions that you would previously not make, for example. So that's then when it affects the input there. So what about mutations, right? Because when you look at biology, we have biology mutation. So a mutation is, for example, when you give birth to an albino, right? So it's a genetic mutation. It's a random change of the DNA that changes how the overall DNA looks like, which gives a different output, right? Or if you look at quantum physics, particles keep disappearing and appearing. So the common thing about mutation, right, and quantum physics is that they are random behaviors. So all random behaviors, like being hit by lightning, for example. So you can't say you have control over that. So you can't have control over random behaviors. Therefore, adds on the fact that there is no free will. So yeah. So an advice would be, so a life advice would be to be careful of the environment, the friends you have, the relationships you have, because they do affect your output. So the input, and then this here. So there being no free will means you can't have a neuron here making its own decision independently, unless if it's a random decision. So if it's a random decision, you still did not have the will to change it. So this comes from this comes from this, and this comes from the environment, where there is also no free will there. So environment is also structured like this. So yeah. Okay.